and welcome to another video. It is a very wet and windy October day. It hadn't rained for a really long time. And the rain started this morning, and according to the weather forecast it's not going to stop raining for at least a week. So here we are in mid-autumn, I think. So I'm in the greenhouse. I've got a couple of jobs to do today that I'm going to do in the shed. It's going to probably be quite dark in there though, so I thought I'd start in the greenhouse so it's not quite so bad, and then we can go and figure out what to do in the shed and how to make that work for filming. Jobs that I need to do today are these coriander need to go in a bigger pot. These couple of spinach need to go in a bigger pot. I'm going to start some choi seeds, and I've also found some hardy annuals that I can still sow in October. I've got some that you can still sow in November as well. But I'm not going to do any of those today, as there is still a whole 6 weeks until the end of November. So just going to see if I can get some of these done. I wanted to try and pull out all of the remaining outdoor tomato plants before the rain set in, so that I can harvest all of the last of the green tomatoes before blight sets in. But I'm not quite sure how I'm going to accomplish that in the current weather situation, so we will come back to that thought a bit later. I've just come into the shed to find there are mushrooms growing in it. That is not a good sign. Look. Ooh, don't necessarily know how I feel about there being fungus in the shed. I think it's largely because I use it as a potting shed, not a storage shed, and I never took out the carpet that the previous owner left in here. So, as I say with so many things, so often when I am recording these videos, that is a problem for another day. We have jobs to do. I've got the fire on in the house, so being out here in this miserable wet weather is really less than desirable. So I want to get these jobs done quite quickly if I can. Okay, so what supplies are we going to need? Start by making a bit of space. Making a bit of space, I don't really know what to do. What's the right thing to pot these up into? Okay, that was fruitful, because I've just found the trays that I want to sow the flowers into, so hurrah. Not found anything else that I'm looking for. Now, previously I've never managed to make spinach as successful as this, so I'm not really sure what the right thing to do is. I could plant it in the ground, but the wet weather makes me think that this would just get slugged. So I'm going to plant them into these little pots first, see if I can get them a bit bigger, then think about planting them out. So, this is very dry compost. That might be a problem. We'll see. Let me see if I can angle you so you can see what I'm doing. It's not a perfect view, I don't think, but it's not too bad. So I'm just going to take my spinach. This was spinach that I sowed at the beginning of September. I'm just going to tip it out. There's not loads in here that I need to be trying to only do a bit at a time, but I don't want to break the roots. So how many plants have I actually got? 1, 2 and 3. Ooh, actually 4. Super. As there are 4, I'm going to change my mind and put them in one of these. I've lost the compost. I found the compost. Okay, so I filled my pot with compost. I'm going to take a dibber. I'm going to dib a hole and drop very carefully the plant into it. Because the compost is very dry, I know that when I get it wet, it will drop the level a little bit, so I'm not being too worried about burying the plant a little bit, because it will right itself in the long run. Being really careful of that long taproot. And this is my first year in this garden of growing with the greenhouse, so I'm probably, if these are successful, I'm going to try and keep them in the greenhouse over winter, rather than plant them out, and just experiment and see what that looks like and how well that works. Okay, so last thing for the spinach is to pop my stick back in and put these out of the way. Next up is coriander, and I am also going to put them in one of these. I don't buy these seed trays, by the way. These are what typically what bedding plants come in, and then I just reuse them until they break so much that I can't. So you can see they're starting to break. But I mean, some of these I've probably had for many seasons. Okay, so with the, so before I just do one big hole, the coriander, there's more in here, so first of all, let's see if I can get them out. Not like that, apparently. I'm going to try it with the fork underneath this time. These really should have been pricked out a couple of weeks ago. There we go. So there's, ooh, let me move it so you can see. A big mat of roots. So I've got 6 pots. Let's see if I can break these very carefully into 6 pieces. Probably going to end up with more than 6, but that's okay because I've got more pots. This one's really dense. There we go. And you've seen me do this before if you've been with my videos for a while, but if you're new here, I'm just going to plant a few seedlings into each of these bigger cell trays. And because they have come out as a collective, I'm going to drop them in the middle and let the plants figure out their own spacing. That's probably going to mean taking quite a bit of the soil out. I can top it back up later if I need to. Because they're in bigger clumps, I need to get them lower down in the pot. Didn't catch all the roots on that one, but that's okay. And actually just shaking, because this is slightly drier soil, I can just shake it so that it naturally forms around the roots. And I'm not forcing anything or risking breaking anything. And again, if I cover over it a little bit at this phase, the leaves, that's not a problem because the soil is very dry, and as soon as I get it properly wet, the soil level will reduce anyway. Let's get a bit more out of there, a bit more out of there. This is the best sowing of coriander I've had all year, so I'm quite keen to pot on as much of it as possible. Okay, there's one. And I'm going to write both pots new labels, because I can hardly see the letters on that one. And this coriander was also sown on the 1st of September. Okay, are you still with me? So we're moving on to hardy annuals. These are flowers, if you didn't know. Hardy annuals are like sweet peas. In this box I've got cornflower, poached eggplants, nigella, and that's about it. There are more than this. The advice that I've found, there are typically 2 sowing periods for hardy annuals. Slight variations depending on the variety. These ones that these have in common are that you can sow them August to October and March to May. So you can sow them in early autumn and in the spring for annual flowers. So annual flowers are the ones that complete their full life cycle from seedling to plant to bearing seeds and then death in 1 year, as opposed to biannuals, which do that over the course of 2 years. Carrots are biannual, FYI, so are parsnips. But this is not trivia. We're sowing some seeds. So I did a massive reorganisation of my flower seeds. I've got hundreds, the same as I have for my vegetable plants. No requirement to buy any more, although these are my last sweet peas. So I will be buying more sweet peas. And I'm going to start some now from this selection. Just really, and that's it. The ones that you start in the autumn, they will be small and just have that bit longer to grow in their sort of dormant period when they're not doing huge amounts. So you might get some stronger plants and some earlier flowers. That's the theory for sowing some now. As I said, I've got a whole box of others that I can sow up until November, so I'll do some more of those next time round. The critical thing I find when sowing flowers is that you don't need that many, unless you're growing a flower garden. Little snail. You don't really need that many, and in my past history I haven't had a great experience of being able to keep them alive if I grow them in the autumn. I have better success when I grow them in the spring, so I don't want to grow or sow loads. These are all things that I have tried to sow before and generally have failed in some way. So cornflowers, although the ones that I did sow a couple of years ago now self-seed across my garden, so I'm not going to sow any more of those this year. I've got 2 packets of nigella, which you might know as something in the mist, love in the mist. I've got 2 varieties here. Oh no, I've got 2 packets, they're both the same one, which is called Miss Jekyll. One packet is open, one packet is not, so I'm going to sow some of those. There we've got poached eggplants. These are a very good companion plant. So whereas I think probably nigella might be a good companion plant, I'm not quite sure what it pairs with. I would grow it for its beauty. The poached eggplants I will grow because, like nasturtiums and calendula, they can be really good for attracting pests away from vegetables. And then I've got some different coloured cornflower, which are a purple, called Black Ball. This isn't open, and you can see came free with Gardener's World magazine at some point in the past. So I've got, is it 15 cell tray? Yeah, 15 cell tray, 3 packets of seed. I'm going to sow 5 cells of each. And I'm going to flip you back over so you can watch me do it. I might be a little bit more zoomed in this time than I was last time, so you'll have to let me know which you prefer. I'm going to fill these trays with a seed sowing compost, but first I just want to double check their conditions. So the nigella need to go 1/2 centimetre deep. The cornflowers 1/2 centimetre deep. And yeah, the poached eggs also 1/2 centimetre deep. Some of these, and they might be in the other box that you'll see next month, you just sprinkle them on the surface and don't cover them at all. These all also tell me that they are much better if you direct sow them outside, but that has never worked for me either, so we're doing it this way. I'm going to fill this tray with seed sowing compost. I do that with my usual disclaimer which says you don't need to use seed sowing compost. A peat-free multi-purpose compost is fine, you just might want to sieve it. Again, where this is dry you can see that it's a bit lumpy. Wiggle that, you can tell the ones that are a bit too full. Okay, and I'm going to squash that down just to make a nice firm area for the seeds. Perfect. I'm going to turn it this way around. You can't see the whole tray, but this is going to allow me to know which cells I'm sowing into. And I'm going to start by doing my labels as well. I'm putting these ones on my plastic plant labels because they're going to need to last like well into the spring. Probably March or April, maybe even May, before I get these out. And this is why I always write in pencil on these labels, because it does mean that you can very easily rub them out and start again. Okay, so what have we got? Corn flour. And I don't know what today's date is, so I'm going to have to come back and do that after. Poached egg plant. And Nigella Miss Jekyll. Is that better? Okay. So I'm going in with Nigella first. These seeds were to be used by 2024, which is last year, so we'll see how well this works. That looks like an onion or a leek seed. I think they are in the same sort of family. I'm just going to sow a couple in each tray, not because I want loads, but because this is old seed, so I'm hedging my bets a little. Putting what I don't use back in the packet. And if these germinate, then I might do some more in the spring as well. Next up is the poached eggplant. These were used by 2023. So this really is a bit of a gamble. When I first got these, I got great germination off them. I got loads of plants. My first allotment was full of these. But again, these seeds are really old now, so no guarantee. And then this new packet of cornflour. It feels like they're just loose in the packet. I'm not sure if they're in an inner one. Yeah. Just loose in there. And these seeds have got little feathers on them. They look kind of like daisy, not daisy, like calendula or marigold seeds. No, they're slightly different again, aren't they? But again, we're going to put a fair few in each, because this seed doesn't tell me when it went out of date, which means it's probably on that one. Nope. So by 2026. Ah! So yay, we should get some cornflour. Just going to fold over the top a couple of times to keep that loose seed safe in there. It's gone back in its pouch. And then I just need to top each of these cells off a little bit. The seed can float around a little bit when you're doing this, so I try to be very careful at this step, which is where I'm pushing the soil down on top of the seeds. So I'm going to go a row at a time for this, and then brush off any excess. Make sure I've got clean hands-ish before going on to the next one. Okay, done. And then last but not least, I'm going to do a bit more pak choi. The pak choi that I sowed last time with you, I can't remember when that was, very possibly the 1st of September, because that seems to be when everything else got sown, is ready to harvest and has grown really well. So I want to get a bit of succession going if I can. So the question is, do I sow in modules or into a tray? I'm going to sow into a tray. That is as much of space in the greenhouse. I'm going to fill my little tray with compost, tap it down. Some people have fancy little devices. I just use my fingers. And then I've got several varieties of pak choi. This one hasn't been opened. I can't remember if it was this one or this one that I grew last time. I think it was this one. I'm going to grow it again, because this is not the time of year to be taking risks. And I haven't got, that's all the seed I've got left. Should get one more succession sow out of that. Sprinkle a little soil on top. Tap it down so there's some nice contact, and then all of these seeds need to go get some water. Got to do my label first. Still don't know today's date. Alrighty, off to the greenhouse we go. Ooh, we're back in the light. That's nice, isn't it? So you can see that I have placed the coriander and spinach in their trays in some water. So I want them to water from the bottom up. I only did this, well, however long it took me to do the other seed trays, so they haven't had quite long enough yet to feel the water coming up from the top. So I'm going to try and squeeze the rest in here too. It's going to be a little bit difficult one-handed. There we go. Fits as snug as a bug in a rug. Ta-da! So hopefully that's going to keep us fed over winter and start us off bright and early next season too. The weather has eased off a little bit, so I'm going to go and see if I can grab in some tomatoes. I think I'm going to call it a day there. We've got some quite important jobs done, but it's no fun hanging around in the cold and the wet. So, as there's always more that could be done, but nothing is essential. I'm going to go and just knock to the camera. Figure out what I'm doing with all of these kilos of green tomatoes. I haven't done all of the tomatoes. That's going to have to continue to be a work in progress. But I've done the most at risk ones. So I'm pretty happy with our accomplishments. And hopefully the weather will calm down a bit soon and we can get on with some other winter jobs. I mean, it's not winter yet, so none of these jobs really need to be tackled. But I've got things on the boil, as you know. But for now, I'm going to call it a day. So thank you ever so much for spending some time with me in my allotment this week. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please leave me a comment below if you can spare the time. I'd love it if you could like and subscribe right to my videos as well. It always motivates me to get into the garden and share more with you when you do. So if you like my videos and want to see more of them, please make sure that you like, comment and subscribe. Thank you to all of my regular viewers. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments as usual, and if you're new here, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next time. Bye bye.